Good evening, everyone. Just got back from shooting -15 at Dave Richardson Memorial this evening. How are you all? I'm just gonna slip into something a little more comfortable here. I am your severely underemployed sommelier / caddy for the evening. Tonight, I will be presenting 5 discs. Just get the last bit on here. Yeah, the Crocs are most important. Okay. Tonight, I'll be presenting 5 discs to you all, and my beliefs as to why they pair with particular wines. I believe I'm the only one in the world who actually qualifies to do this presentation. Anyone else can talk to my lawyer if they think that they can do it better, but I don't think so. This is the first of its kind. But yeah, I'm going to describe a disc, and I'm going to sort of pair that with a wine. I'm going to talk a little bit about the wine, and I'd like you to sort of think about the disc that I'm describing and see if you can guess it. I'm going to reveal it at the end, each single one. If you have more questions about the wine, things like that, ask your questions and I will answer them. And yeah, so after each disc, we'll answer some questions. Let's get started. Disc number 1, I'm holding a disc here. Don't look, it's cheating. All right, I have a wonderful disc pairing here to start off with. It's a good disc. It's a little boring. It's a little unapologetic. It's a little bit consistent. It's consistently annoying, I would say, to many disc golfers. It requires something big and meaty hand to give it an extra amount of spin to get it into the basket. Someone with a great deal of precision and a robot-like patience. Yeah, for me, this disc is somewhat pretentious, as I believe the company believes that it can, in fact, make up its own flight numbers over and above anyone else's flight numbers. It is often thrown by a very special individual, which I won't name yet because that's just going to give the whole thing away. But, you know, if I were to pair this disc and I was out and about trying to, you know, get this into my basket and having a good round and really, you know, going for the dough instead of for the show today, I would probably pair this with a New World Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. As you all know, well, as you probably don't know, which is why you're tuned into this ridiculous seminar, Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon is very deep, it's very bold, it's very predictable. Year after year in Napa Valley, you know, they're getting the same kind of weather and microclimates and all that sort of stuff. So they're really, really consistent and their wines are really good. But, you know, like a lot of American, you know, sort of wines, they're a little, you know, they're into what, you know, they're into their own stuff. They like it a little bit too much, you know, but, you know, that's okay. That's fine. Another fun fact, I used to represent a company in Napa Valley, and they actually participated in this event in the 1970s. It's not a disc golf event, believe it or not, called the Judgment of Paris. And at that event, what happened was they tested some of the French wines, the best French wines from the best houses from all across France, and paired them up for a blind tasting against American wines. American wines wanted to come onto the scene and be like, hey, you know, we're something too. We can make great wine too, you know. So they did a blind tasting for the 2 different wines coming from France and from Napa, and a lot of American wines they placed really high, you know what I mean? And one of those was Cabernet Sauvignon and a lot of Chardonnay there too. And yeah, so they that was really the big event that sort of put American wine on the scene. So yeah, that was a really I think it would pair very, very well. Does anyone think they know what it is, the disc that I'm pairing with this delicious, predictable Cabernet Sauvignon? All right, okay. Well, this is often thrown by everyone's favorite disc golf robot, Paul Macbeth, and James's favorite disc, which is odd, or one of his favorite discs, is I am describing to you a Luna. The Luna is steady, and you know it goes in every time, especially when you're playing in James's makeshift basement, and when he makes 8 putts in a row and you make 2, it's extremely frustrating. But you know it is a thing of disc golf. Unfortunately, we have a very strange and mysterious disc here behind me. It is one of my absolute favorite discs to throw. I say strange and mysterious because every time I throw it, it seems to get closer to the basket than anything else that is usually, you know, if I'm usually 60 feet away, I throw this disc and all of a sudden I'm 10 feet away. It's incredible. For like nothing other than it was, nothing to do with skill, just the fact that like whoever made this disc or came up with it is a genius. Yeah, lovely, lovely disc. It's very dark, has a very unnatural sort of and supernatural sort of sense to it, I would say. It's very strange, and by strange, I think this disc would do very well to pair with some of my favorite ones. If you guys ever tried a Pinot Noir from Burgundy in France, those are fantastic. So Pinot Noir, very dark. Well, like they're a lighter style, but when you get the Pinot Noir from Burgundy, it's very like stinky and strange and like nothing else you've ever tasted before. I have a funny story. When I used to work for these wine companies, they used to say, everyone would say, "Hey, Pinot Noir, it's very light and fruity and like easygoing and drinking." But the first ever Pinot Noir I drank was from Burgundy, and it smelled like horse's ass. This is the appeal of drinking that wine. It's a very particular kind of chemical compound that sort of makes that sort of stinky, strange smell. And I think that the person that it's a favorite disc of one of my favorite players to watch, and that's Jeremy Colling. I think he's fantastic, magnificent, and I love all the shirts he wears, no matter what, and his heavy breathing. Yeah, I would definitely recommend pairing this with Burgundy, Pinot Noir, specifically from the Côte de Nuit region. That's the stinkiest, that's the strangest, and I just love it so much. Can anyone think of a disc that flies just like the best and the furthest, and you can use it on your forehand and your backhand in any situation? I have here a 12-time Inn of a Star Rate. Love this disc. Love this disc. This is the only thing I know how to throw properly, so I never use it. Yeah, Star Rith. Super weird, strange, supernatural, just like Burgundy wine. Very weird. You can taste it for the first time. You're probably going to hate it, but eventually you'll start loving it. It's one of those things like, oh, this is weird, but I can't stop drinking it. It's going to be just like that. Okay, so I would say that this disc is too bold, I would say, and too adventurous for most people, but a lot of beginners are going after it. You know what I mean? They're doing that thing. That's the first disc. I saw that disc and I was like, oh, I've got to have one of these. I know that I can throw it. It looks so interesting. I want to do it. And I wanted to get one right away. And, most of us, we just don't have the arm speed for it yet. Isn't that the truth for almost all the time? Yeah. Love this disc. This disc is sponsored or named after or named with one who I would consider to be in more of the I don't know, the trailer parky chic or the trailer park chic sort of ideas about things. It's a it's definitely a wacky sort of disc and a wacky sort of guy. In my mind, is sort of getting after this on a regular basis. It's got all kinds of wacky ideas and, where his diseases are coming from and things like that. Yeah, and if I were to pair this disc with something, I would certainly consider pairing it with something equally wacky. Something like an Apothic Red, perhaps, or a Ménage à Trois red blend. Something that is guaranteed to give you an only okay night and a terrible morning, Those wines are terrible, very strange. I think it pairs very well because, every time I throw this disc, I'm like, doesn't do the thing I want it to do. It like kind of does it, or maybe just it like dives too fast or whatever. And it's just like, I just really wish I could bomb it as much as I could. Does anyone have an idea of what disc I'm thinking of now that I have in the back of my hand? This wacky guy that I was describing who throws this often is none other than the guy that is most entertaining to watch, but is also scary, is Ricky Wysocki. Mr. Ricky Wysocki, he's got that look. He looks a little sick, but he's just so dangerous. You know what I mean? It's what I love watching Ricky Wysocki. He's terrifying. He's always throwing pigs and scaring people with his discs. I have here a Ricky Wysocki Destroyer. I can't throw this. I wish I could. I wish I could throw it better than I wish I could throw it as good as I could throw my Wraith. But I'm slow and old and drunk most of the time, so it's a lot more difficult than I had hoped it would be. But I do also like this disc. Really good for forehands too. Disc number 4. You know, this is a disc. This is a disc that I have yet to throw yet this year, mostly because it's winter and you can't do that kind of throw. I have what some would call, you know, definitely a roller disc. This is definitely a disc that, you know, if you put it on that right angle, it's going to come down, it's going to roll, and it should roll forever from you. And I haven't used it, and I think I might have thrown it just once because it's super crazy, understable, and it's something that's very strange. Not unlike the guy who has also like sponsored, or you know, he has his name on this particular disc. It's kind of strange and new and kind of foreign and exciting. Like I just can't wait for the snow to clear so I can throw rollers, so I can see if I want to keep this disc or not, or to sell it. But I might just keep it because all the in the bag videos I've watched of Greg Barsby has made me want to be just like him. And I think if I were to spend some time with Greg Barsby and we were to have a drink together, I think Greg would want not wine. I don't think he would want wine. I think he would want something a bit more interesting, a bit different. And so I actually am going to go off the board here and pair this with a sake. Pair it with the Hakaizan Honjozo sake. Sake is great. Another super strange kind of drink. It's a little stinky and weird. It's got koji, and it's closer to a beer than it is to a wine, in fact, because it's a brewing process. And we've got introduction of a mold that happens in there too, which is super cool. And then it's just a little bit different from the winemaking process. Like you have to break down those starchy rice grains first and polish them in order to you know, get them to release, you know, the appropriate amount of starch so that they can make a super delicious, light and airy flavored sort of sake. Honjozo sake is kind of cool. There's like 2 different sides of sake. One's a junmai style sake where they just use the rice, and the Honjozo side, which is pretty cool because they just they add a tiny bit of alcohol or grain alcohol, and it like lifts all like the flavors. It makes everything smell kind of flowery. I think it'd be kind of weird because you it would taste more like a port or like a fortified wine or something like that. It's not the case. It's because it's lighter. It just kind of it brings all the different flavors out. And, you know, you get all these really cool sort of light things. It's best, you know, this sake is best enjoyed at any temperature, really. You can have the really good sort of style sakes, those like those ginjo styles, daiginjo styles. You want to drink those cold. This style, you can drink at any temperature. They've got a few different temperatures. You can drink it cold. You can drink this one room temperature, Nurukan or Atsukan. So Nurukan, I think, is actually the warm body temperature. They'll heat it to that very specific temperature, which is neat. And Atsukan, which is a little bit hotter. It's a little bit hot to the touch. So you can enjoy this kind of sake like in any kind of scenario. So it's really, really nice if you really like want to get into sake and try some new, different, strange things that may work for you or may not work for you. Out of left field stuff, just like Greg Barsby. He's such a sweet guy. I really love all his videos. But hey, oh man, I left my drink here. Here, cheers, guys. Here we go. Got a little bit of sherry here. Because it's Tuesday and I'm a crazy person. All right. Can anybody forge a guess of what disc I have here behind my back? The Greg Barsby Roadrunner. I think everyone knows this one. This one's super cool and fancy. I just haven't thrown it, and I just can't wait. Yeah, it's gonna be great. Come summertime. This is a 2019 world champion, so you know it's nothing fancy, really. This is definitely one of my favorite discs to throw. If you've thrown with me before, you're gonna know it. Very bold, you know. Very also has that nice predictability, but it's just kind of like super straight as an arrow, and then just like drops in there super hard. You know, on that, on the overstable sort of qualities at the end. Just It's just super reliable, but that sort of super straight flight followed by like intense dive and turn, I find spicy and exciting and fun and like, in the wine world, equally delicious. So it makes sense for me to pair this particular disc with this kind of wine. I'm a big fan of Spanish wines. I think they're amazing. I think they're like a super good price. Another good tip for Valentine's Day, like a lot of those wines out of Spain are like crazy good quality, but like they're just cheaper. They're way, way cheaper. Labor is so much cheaper in Spain. We hope that, those people can make more money someday, but just so happens that the way that the economy is working is like things are like less than half the cost to make in Spain. So you get these really, really high quality products for like half the price of something that's just as good. Like I was talking about that Napa Cab earlier. If you pair this disc or with your significant other or with this disc, and you purchase like a Spanish Gran Reserva, something like that, spicy Tempranillo grape. It's like it's got a little bit of like this like strange like dill pickle sort of smell because of the American oak, and most people use French oak, but the Spanish use American oak for trade reasons from a long, long time ago. Yeah, it would just, you can buy one of those. My favorite brand is the Faustino brand. It's just the best. It's just the best. It comes in this crazy speckled bottle that's totally blocked out. So it's really great. So the wine doesn't oxidize ever, and you can like have it in your shelf or in your wine fridge for ages and ages. There's a few other releases right now that are kind of affordable. I think it's like a 2006 that's like maybe around $40 or so, which is kind of, not too bad. It's not nothing too crazy. But they have other sort of lower level brands too, right? Because there's actually different levels to Spanish wine, which is very interesting. And they all indicate sort of how long the wine has been stored in a barrel. So it'll actually indicate this sort of level of like smoky quality that the tannins on the inside of the barrel come off and go into the wine for. So like the first level is called Joven, which means it's there's nothing in it, juvenile. And then it's followed by Crianza, and then by Reserva, and then by Gran Reserva. You'll see a lot of these different funny labels and things on wines and stuff too. In South America, they just put Reserva on it because it sounds fancy. But in Spain, there's actual like rules and regulations that say, hey, it has to be in oak for this certain amount of time to be called a Gran Reserva or a Reserva. And it goes up in 6-month increments in barrel, in cask, to sort of like indicate to you like, hey, Gran Reserva is going to be the smokiest. It's not like necessarily better or worse, but like Gran Reserva is going to be the smokiest. Reserva is going to be a little bit less. Crianza, again, like closer, it's going to be a little more balanced. And Joven is just sort of like straight grape juice for the most part, but like, delicious fermented wine. Like not all wines are stored in barrels, but yeah, I guess I digress. Does anyone have an idea? Oh, yes. Well, one other fact that I almost forgot. This is going to give it all away, unfortunately, but there's a guy who throws, I'm not going to give it away. There's a guy who throws this disc often. It's like his exact favorite disc. He's a forehand player. And his last name is actually from Spain. But it's not a Spanish name, like from the region of Crianza, but I'm going to go the other way because I had to make this disc sort of fit the mold. And because this guy's last name is Spanish. I don't think the other guy Spanish? He might be. I don't know. No, but he's from the Basque country. He'd be very angry if I told him that I was pairing a Crianza with this wine, because the Basque, they don't want to be a part of Spain. They're not really interested. They're scared, and they want their own country for the most part. But the guy's name is Ulibarri, and now you all know what the disc is. Here it is. This is a Big Z Raptor. So everyone who said Firebird is also right. It's the same thing. Well, thanks for having me, guys. Listening to my crazy presentation. I really do appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. This is what I do every Tuesday night by myself anyway, so it's just really nice to get it to share with the rest of the world and the interwebs.